Alright, guys, good evening. Pastor here. And as usual, it's Friday, right? So we talk about another educational video about trading. So as you can see, I'm on the weekly chart on Bitcoin. I just want to explain what I expect from Bitcoin in the coming weeks. You know, just my directional bias on Bitcoin, and then we'll move on with the rest of our day, right? As you can see, I marked this parallel channel, this parallel support for Bitcoin at this level on the weekly time frame. Now, not that we necessarily trade trendline supports, but this serves as an extra confluence to what I'm about to explain, right? Now, when you apply your basic market structure, this was the break of structure, and then this was the break, right? Then what happened? Market eventually changed character, right? Market eventually changed character. That was around, February. And then we took a short position in the community from this breaker, right? This flip zone. That was where we took the shot and we targeted this low. And as you can see, it delivered. You can check the community, see for yourself when we took this trade. Now, what's next for Bitcoin? Now that we have changed character, right? Sentiment has turned bearish. At least for now, we are heavily bearish on Bitcoin. What do we expect on Bitcoin? Now, now that Bitcoin has tapped this support and has reacted from it, now we expect Bitcoin to rally above, right? It should rally upwards to take out these highs, this internal range liquidity, mitigate this inefficiency, at least 50% of it, right? You can just draw out your Fibonacci and then you can see where the 50% ends. It's at this level, right? This is a 50%. This line right here. Anything above it is premium. Now we expect Bitcoin to clear this inefficiency, take out this liquidity, this double top, and then mitigate this inefficiency, and then come up above the 50% into the premium zone, right? That's when we'll be starting to look for what? Sales. That's when we look for sales. But before that, I expect Bitcoin to dump again and retest this support level before we now push to the upside. Even though that seems like a stretch, the market is showing signs of exhaustion because there seems to be no room for expansion. But then when we go down to the lower time frame, it all makes sense why I'm expecting something like this on Bitcoin. I've been saying this for the past 2 weeks, right? Even before this 2 weekly candles printed, we started shorting Bitcoin because I was expecting a retest of this zone. And why am I expecting a retest on this zone? This is a very, very important level. Even if this didn't exist, even if this wasn't a channel, this was always going to be a strong level. Let's go down to the 4-hour time frame to see what I'm talking about. Now, this is the 4-hour time frame, right? This is the 4-hour time frame. Now, I gave a short position in community, right, on Bitcoin from this level. When it rallied up to this level, we took the short, it delivered, as you can see, it dumped. And then we kept getting more entries, right? We kept getting more entries. But the most recent signal I gave on Bitcoin was a short position around this level. I gave a sniper shot at this level. Our stop loss was right here. And I said, where was I going to target? 62K, right? This low. And as you can see, it's delivered. Now, why did I, give this short signal? If you take a look at this, you apply simple market structure principle, right? Simple market structure principle. Market has been breaking structure, internal break of structure. It's kept breaking structure. And then the final break occurred here. Now, this was the final break, right? That's what this was it. And then most traders were looking to short from this level. You yourself included watching this video, I know. You took your BTC shots on this level. And you're right to take your shots from this level because it's an order block and fair value gap has been mitigated, and all. But what you fail to understand is internal liquidity, internal range liquidity. You need to bring liquidity into the picture when trading Bitcoin and other high risk assets like gold. You need to look at liquidity. Just because it's an order block and it has mitigated the inefficiency doesn't mean it's a perfect short, right? Doesn't mean it's going to hold. At least even if you are going to short from this level, you should give your stop loss a breathing space. You should give it a breathing space. But of course, that's not what I did. Initially, I had my short limit order. I sent it to the group. I said we should set a short limit order at this level. But as price approached the entry, I said we should cancel. Even when it was deep in this order block, I said we should cancel because I needed a clean liquidity sweep. I needed a rejection, right? I needed a signal that okay, we are done. We are done playing around here. We are done consolidating. It's time to continue the trend. What did I do? If this was my last break of structure, right? This is my trading range, right? It is the most recent low and the previous high created, right? This is my trading range. This is where you apply support and resistance principles, right? If you look at it, Bitcoin failed to break above here in the past, in the past few days. It has been rallying upward. Price kept getting rejected like 6 times at this level. It kept closing a 4-hour candle below this resistance. And look at what happened here. The same thing, right? The same thing here. Look at this, the same thing here. Now you apply support and resistance principles with SMC. Now that SMC has shown you that market is bearish, and then there's a strong resistance at this level above your 4-hour order block, what do? You wait for a sweep into that resistance and wait for it to hold before you short. It's as simple as that. You wait. Trading is a waiting game. You don't just you don't just FOMO and enter. That's not how to trade. What did I do? I marked these highs, these two highs, as liquidity and said we should short Bitcoin. At this, it was very, very precise. It was very, very precise. It was a sniper entry. I said these highs were going to get taken out because if you had shorted Bitcoin from this level, then definitely your stop loss should be at this high or even here because most traders can't afford to use a very, very big stop loss. So at the very least, your stop loss should be around this level. There's so much liquidity at this area, and then it's a very, very strong resistance. And that was our entry. We took our shot from this level, stop loss here, and then as you can see, immediately price swept that liquidity. It started pushing downwards aggressively. No, that's not all right. That's not. I didn't just. In fact, I even asked them to close. The moment price broke below, I said close. Right? Why? Because I was seeing multiple opportunities, right? More entries. I took I took a second entry at the other block on the 15-minute time frame, the breaker block at this level. And then as you can see from the 4-hour time frame, it's clear there was another breaker block at this level. I took another shot from this level. You can check all my socials and my community, you'll see it. You know, I took another shot from this level. And then I took another shot from this level again. And now Bitcoin is running down. And I'm going to short it again. But before I tell you where I'm shorting this from again, let's take a quick look at why I said I'm expecting Bitcoin to get down to the 60K level before it continues pumping, right? No, like I said, you apply support and resistance principle along with SMC. That's what I do, right? So that's what gives me a high way rate. That's what I do. That's what works for me. Now, this is an imbalance. There's a lot of imbalance at this level, right? Inefficiency to be mitigated. And then this is a reclamation zone. My students will know that this is a reclamation zone, which is a very, very crucial zone for BTC at this point. This is a reclamation zone. And then this is all liquidity, trendline liquidity. There are trendline traders longing Bitcoin at this level right now. A lot of trendline traders, longing Bitcoin at this level. I'm not saying they are wrong. All strategies work, right? They do. You just need to be consistent with them. But my strategy, I hunt liquidity. I mostly hunt liquidity. I cannot even take a trade without seeing a liquidity stream, no matter how clean the setup looks. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to rally below, sweep all this liquidity down here, and then mitigate this inefficiency, tap into this reclamation zone before we see any significant push to the upside. And then when we get that push, I expect these highs to get taken out, right? We clear these highs, ultimately coming up here to mitigate this inefficiency, right? Before we get any continuation of the trend or whatever Bitcoin decides to do from there. Our job is not to predict the future. Our job is to go with the flow, right? Now that's why I expect Bitcoin to get back to this reclamation zone before I get any push to the upside. Now, why am I looking to take my short from Bitcoin? Now, look at this clean price action, right? A very, very clean price action. And with every break that happened in the past along this rally downwards, we got it, right? It was a very, very clean price action. As you can see, price was respecting the other blocks and just at the same time, Bitcoin has created a trendline liquidity, and there are inefficiencies here to be mitigated. Although I'm not going to wait for Bitcoin to, rally upwards this way and then take all this liquidity out before we continue moving. Of course, that could happen, right? Anything is possible. That could happen. In fact, if that happens, I'm going to be very, very happy because it's going to give me a high, into that 60K region, right? But let's put our cards on the table. Bitcoin broke structure here, right? It broke structure at this level, and then it pulled back, and then broke structure again. Now, after breaking structure, what's our trading range? This was the previous high, and this is the most recent low, right? You expect Bitcoin to get back up here, clear this inefficiency, come to this zone, mark out your other block, and then take your shots from this level. But that's not what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Like I said, no matter how clean the setup is, I need a liquidity sweep. I need a sweep of liquidity. I need to know that a lot of retail traders have been taken out of the market, right? So this would be an inducement for me to be a form of liquidity sweep for me. And if you had watched my YouTube video on liquidity, you know that this is a liquidity pool, right? This is a liquidity pool that can get targeted. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to come and take this out and then tap into this other block. This other block right here is going to be my entry. This other block right here is going to be my entry. And it aligns perfectly well with the trend line. The trend line resistance. We can keep going down from here. We can keep going down. You can see how it aligns perfectly with trend line resistance. So a trend line resistance or a parallel channel can serve as two things. Although it's a resistance, or it can serve as a resistance or a support. It can also serve as a liquidity point because anywhere they support, they are buy orders. Anywhere there's resistance, they are sell orders. So unless there is an internal sweep, right? If there is a resistance exists, you know, and price rallies downwards and it's coming back to test the resistance. If there isn't an engineered liquidity in the internal range before the resistance, if there is no any significant sweep of liquidity before the resistance, then that resistance may not likely hold, right? Because ultimately, smart money needs you. They need your order, right? They need your order to absorb their orders to take price downwards. If they are trying to sell market, they need someone to buy at this level for them to sell to that person. So ultimately, they will have to sweep this resistance. And what happens when they sweep a sell order? It becomes a buy order. And when you buy at this level, they sell at this level, ultimately absorbing all the orders, and then price keeps going down. It's as simple as that. Don't start drawing, POI nearest to inducement or whatever you could call it, and then start looking for 10R. You just look at another block, don't mark something like this, an inducement, and then put your entry and stop loss here, and then target something like that. Come on, doesn't make sense. You need to understand how markets moves, right? Why it moves, not just how it moves. Now, like I said, I'm expecting Bitcoin to take out this highs, tap into this other block along with a parallel channel, and then voila, we let it down. And if that doesn't happen, if we break above this, then I'll be looking for Bitcoin to go higher and take out this final liquidity. Then we keep going down. So yeah. And if you want to be getting this updates live from us, you can simply tap the link in my profile and then join our community. It's completely free, right? And it's an open group, it's a discussion group for everybody to talk. You can, share your opinion and insight, and we'll be happy to welcome you. If you want to be getting these updates before they happen, instead of seeing them on YouTube videos telling you that we took shots from this and it played out, we took shots from this and it played out, why not come and take the shots with us and then enjoy. With that said, I think that's all for today. I have others on gold too, but I don't feel too good. I'm not going to spend another 10-20 minutes explaining what I am expecting on gold. Probably I might drop it during the weekend if you guys want, or by Monday, because ultimately gold is going to get closed. The market is going to get closed in a few hours today. So looking at Monday open, right? That gap to the upside or downside. Yeah. For now, stay safe. Peace out.